This podcast is brought to you by Legend Comics and Coffee in Omaha, Nebraska, located in scenic downtown Benson. They got a new location. It's absolutely gorgeous. Check it out. And by listeners like you. Go to Patreon/Two-Headed Nerd. Become a patron. Support this show.
Our story this week picks up where we left off last week.
Broadcasting from the ZIGGURAT at Omaha in caverns deep below the metro area, where we've been wearing metal masks and hosting illegal arms deals to fund this show for years. It's our pleasure to welcome you to episode 746 of the Two-Headed Nerd Comic Book Podcast. I'm your head number one, the internet's Joe Patrick.
And I'm your head number two. My name is Matt Baum. Today on the Back Issue Show, we are trying a new character-centric theme for the Cosmic Longbox. Since Destro number one hit the stands this week, the CLB demanded we dig deep into the silver-masked Scotsman's comic history. And we'll review the latest Destro number one from the Energon universe, too.
After that, we'll set you up with our must-read picks for next week's new comics, but now get ready to spend a ton of cash on G.I. Joe figs, because is this a comic or a toy catalog? Back issue review time in the ZIGGURAT. The answer is both.
It's definitely both.
Created by Larry Hama, along with almost all the G.I. Joe characters you know and love, Destro, a.k.a. James McCullen Destro, the 24th, was born in Callander, Scotland. His family had been designing and selling arms for centuries, and as we'll find out later, the clan leader wears the silver mask and assumes the title Destro. War and weapons may be his passion, but Destro is also a world-renowned speculative real estate investor in developing areas.
Nothing more evil than real estate. I mean, you know, true. You thought weapons dealing was gross?
Using his company, Mars, Destro would hire mercenaries to stir up conflict in dangerous regions and then provide arms to both sides. He's a mysterious figure with an even stranger code of honor that allows him to play both sides whenever there's profit to be made. The stories that we are looking at today come from the Best of Destro trade paperback, which collected several of his Marvel Comics appearances. That's from IDW. And two stories from Marvel UK's Joe anthology, Action Force.
Why couldn't they just call it G.I. Joe? I don't understand.
Because G.I. Joe is a very American thing.
I mean, I guess
they called it Action Force so that it was...
But the comic book is still about America's daring, highly trained special mission force.
Dude, I don't know. I don't know why. Matt, why don't you start off with Destro's first appearance?
We begin with G.I. Joe, a real American hero, number 11 from Marvel Comics, 1983. Written by Larry Hama, pencils by Mike Vosberg, inks by John D'Agostino, colors by Christine Sheely or Scheel. What do you think?
You know, I always just said Scheel, but it might be Sheely.
It might be Sheely with the E on the end. I don't know. Letters by Rick Parker. Your near mint value on this one is only $18, which seems really low. And even CGC 9.8 for the first Destro, $225. That kind of shocks me.
I mean, it's the first Destro in shadow.
Yeah, but still, like, look at the first Venom blob or whatever, you know. It goes for quite a bit of money, and you don't even see him, you know.
But I mean, there's a difference between Venom or Amazing Spider-Man 299, which has a cameo on the last page of Venom, and Amazing Spider-Man 300, which is the actual first appearance, like full appearance of Venom.
Right.
Like, one is more valuable than the other, and we'll find that out in our next chapter.
Fair enough, but this was the first appearance of Airborne, Snow Job, Wild Bill, Gung Ho, Doc, and Destro, although here he's only credited as the Specialist.
Yeah, you don't really see him. You see his arm.
Yeah, we won't get a good shot of it.
You see his arm with the rockets on it, and that's about it.
A team of Joes heads to Alaska to investigate a Cobra operation involving an oil pipeline and a shipment of mysterious double-walled steel containers.
Yeah, I'm sure there isn't anything dangerous.
No, it's probably fine. They probably just want to put oil in them and steal it, right?
Yeah, they're taking oil, yeah.
Pinned down by Cobra gunners, Rock and Roll, Snake Eyes, Duke, Gung Ho, and Doc split up to pursue the Hiss tanks that are heading south. They jump on Snow Job's snowmobile, the Battle Bear, and, of course, they commandeered a Hiss tank. There was a little interaction last issue where the Mobot tank showed up in the end and started opening fire on them in Alaska that leads into this one. So
don't forget that at some point, Snowjob offers to introduce rock and roll to Gung Ho's cute sister.
Yeah, that'll come up
back later.
That comes back big time. Meanwhile, back at Cobra HQ, Cobra Commander and the Baroness brief their new specialist on the Alaskan mission and send him on his way. Cobra Commander introduces him to the Baroness as the Hawk to Cobra Commander's general flag. Oh, yeah.
But the twist is that the Baroness already knows him.
Back in Alaska, Duke's team finds the Cobra Hiss detachment unloading the canisters at the pumping station on the pipeline. But little do they know, the specialist has also arrived. When the Joes bust in and overpower the Cobra soldiers, some of the canisters are damaged. It releases a deadly toxin. So they can't send in any backup because they don't want to get anyone else infected. Cobra reinforcements are surrounding the building, and the Joes learn that this operation, total distraction by the specialist, who, of course, has the only antidote, as usual.
Basically, Cobra has staged a toxic gas attack to give the Alaskan oil team, the civilian oil team, a reason to shut down the pipeline so that the tainted oil doesn't make it to the plant. And then they're going to use the pipeline to smuggle plutonium from the plant farther down the pipeline where Cobra squad is waiting. And so even though it's all a sham, the toxin, of course, is very real because it had to be convincing you guys.
Of course, yeah. The Joes fight their way out and they get to the nuclear power plant just as the specialist is about to send the plutonium down the pipe on its way. The Joes foil the plot. They retrieve the antidote, but they never see the specialist's face. And they trick the remaining Cobra soldiers into thinking they've been exposed to the toxin too. But don't worry. Doc is like, here's the deal. You let us go, and I'll give you the antidote shots that I have in my pack.
You leave the plutonium, I'll give you the antidote.
Totally. But they're just tetanus shots. These stupid soldiers don't even know. Hey-oh!
They also weren't actually sick.
No, they weren't actually sick.
Because otherwise Doc would be complicit in the deaths of several men.
Well, right.
Well, the toxin never even made it to them. They thought that they were infected, but they weren't.
Right. With the Cobra plot shut down, the Joes have a good laugh at rock and roll's expense because it turns out Gung Ho, his good-looking little sister, is a 9-year-old girl.
She is cute, though.
She's a model. She's a child model.
She is a child's fashion model, yes.
Not to mention, Gung Ho has a deep Cajun accent here, and his real name is Etienne R. Lafitte, so he's Cajun as hell. But in the cartoon, he doesn't sound Cajun at all. He just sounds I mean,
he's definitely from Louisiana, but in the cartoon, he sounds just like a country southerner. Like
we do meet his family in the cartoon, though, and they are comically Cajun. Like, we don't know much about Cajuns, but we know they like gumbo and they're talking like Jacquemot Finande. Ha ha ha.
I guarantee. Yeah.
Like you said, we never really see Destro, and we don't learn much about him other than he's a total badass. He kicks shit out of Doc, but Doc's also a pacifist.
I mean, Doc holds his own and manages to get the antidote away from him.
Yeah, but Doc even says, he's like, oh yeah, I valiantly smashed my face against his boots over there. And Doc gets just thrown out of the darkness. Like, how dare you touch me? And he comes flying back. Doc kind of sucks. He's a total pacifist. He won't pick up a gun. He's always crying about this.
That's Lifeline.
No, Lifeline
is the other medic.
I agree, but in this, Doc is a pacifist, and he's like, I won't pick up guns because of the Geneva Conventions, but I can throw a snowball at you. Like, come on, dude.
I mean, I don't know what the Geneva Conventions say about military doctors during wartime. Maybe he's prohibited from carrying weapons.
Do, but it's stupid. Snake Eyes, Airborne, and Gung Ho all have some really badass fight scenes. Airborne has a completely ridiculous, hang glider scene where he guides two Cobra dudes into one spot.
What are we doing with hang gliders in Alaska? That seems like a dumb idea.
Hang gliding, I guess. I don't know. But this
hang gliding off of what?
They jumped off a snow ridge or something. I don't know. I mean, come on. He does kind of come out of nowhere. I'll say that. He definitely comes out of nowhere.
But I mean, the Cobras have them too.
Sure. Yeah. Well, I mean, you're selling toys here, Joe. What do you want?
Yeah, no, I get it.
All in all, though, great first appearance for all characters. Really nice job hiding Destro. As a kid, I remember reading this and going, oh man, this guy's a badass. I want more of this dude. And we're going to get it in our next issue. But this one, I'm giving it a huge buy. This is great. Art.
Yeah, I mean, of course, it's a very enticing, like mysterious first appearance. Like you want to know more about the specialist.
Totally.
And if you know anything about the toys at the time, you already know who the specialist is. Well, maybe you don't, because I actually don't know the timeline of when the toy came out versus the comic versus the cartoon.
Yeah, I don't either. We may not have had the toys here because it does seem like, as we're reading this, like you just mentioned with Lifeline and even Gung Ho, there's ideas with the characters that are not the same as in the cartoon. And I think the cartoon was the major driving force for the toys. So I think they were still working out some character stuff here, maybe. I don't know.
The G.I. Joe cartoon launched in September 1983.
Okay.
This was in May.
Yeah, this is in May. So it was not out
Which
yet.
means it came out actually in probably like March.
Right. So G.I. Joe the comic had been running for a while before the cartoon. I think, yeah, they were still totally hammering out some character stuff.
When did the toy come out? I don't know. We're not going to spend the whole episode Googling shit. But I mean, we all know that Larry Hama is credited for essentially creating all of these characters. He may not have designed them, but he did create personalities and backstories for all of them. If he's credited as the creator of Destro, then the comic came first, baby.
Yeah.
As far as I'm concerned.
There you go.
We're going to skip ahead a few months and move on to G.I. Joe number 14, cover date August 1983.
Oh, I was just doing the date that it shipped. I mean, if you want the cover date, we can do that.
No, I'm just reading the date that's on the cover.
Okay.
So I'm just, for context, it came out late spring, early summer 1983.
May 1983.
Or well, May, yeah. So summer 83, written by Hama, with pencils again by Mike Vosberg, inks by John DeAgostino, and colors by Christy Sheely. Letters now are by Joe Rosen. Near mint value on this puppy, again, $18, but CGC 9.8, $295. So you get a value bump on this one because it's the first full appearance of Destro.
There you go.
Quinn, who is an Inuit mercenary.
No, he's an Eskimo, and it's right after the song Quinn the Eskimo.
Well, no, Quinn the Eskimo is old.
No, I get that, but they modeled it. This character's name is KWINN, and they named.
I know what the name is a reference to, but I'm not like Eskimo is not the preferred nomenclature.
I get it, but Bob Dylan wrote a song called Quinn the Eskimo, and that's where this comes from. And he's saying like all this Eskimo magic in this. He's like,
okay, we all know what it means. Thank you. I'm choosing not to use the pejorative because that's not considered classy anymore. But we all know it's obviously patterned after the very famous song. Dr. Venom is an evil scientist, obviously. And Snake Eyes survived the bombing of Cobra Research Facility in Sierra Gordo.
Which translates to Fat Mountain.
Yeah.
If you're wondering.
When did that happen? Don't worry about it. It was in between issues 11 and 14.
It was the previous issue, actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
But now they're trapped at the bottom of a sinking bunker at the bottom of the river. They've got to work together to escape. Back at G.I. Joe HQ, a map fragment found at the Cobra Research Station in Sierra Gordo is decoded, and it shows a map of Vermont with a town called Springfield.
Now, point of order. This is not Springfield, Illinois.
No, it's Vermont.
Cobra headquarters is located. They've just got a hard-on for towns named Springfield, I guess. So,
the headquarters is in Springfield, Illinois.
No Springfield is safe, apparently. I don't know.
No Springfield is safe, sure. But this takes place in Springfield, Vermont. The mystery man from issue 11 sneaks to a quiet corner of Cobra headquarters with the Baroness, and we finally learn his identity. He's Destro!
Big time. Big time
The
Destro.
sexual tension is off the
Oh,
charts.
yeah. Oh, man. Him and Baroness. And she knows all about this dude.
His shirt's all the way unbuttoned.
Oh, yeah. And she's like, why do I have to call you by that horrible name? Like, what's that all about? Didn't she know?
It's like his title. It's not his name. It's his title.
I mean, I guess, but like, I don't know, there's definitely
Like
something else going on here. And I don't know if they ever fully flesh it out, like what they're upset about, you know?
Well, because she knows him as James McCullen.
Right.
And he's like, call me Destro, baby. I was like, yeah, all right. We learn that Cobra Commander winds down by target shooting with a machine gun, but he does it indoors while seated on a snake-shaped throne.
And not to mention, he's maybe, 10, 12 feet away?
10, 15 feet away. Yeah. Very relaxing. Yeah. The Joes head out to attack Springfield, and Cobra Commander takes a supersonic rocket there to test Dr. Venom's plague toxin on a willing Cobra subject. Now, the plague toxin is supposed to incubate inside the subject, turning him into a walking dirty bomb.
Right.
However, the toxin kills the volunteer immediately. Dr. Venom double cross.
On top of that, Destro is planning to overthrow Cobra Commander, and he's trying to get his baby, the Baroness, not to go to Springfield 2.
But he didn't tell her why, and that's on him.
No, he's like, things are about to change big time. Don't go there. And then he's talking to Scarface.
Does he say the words big time?
No, not big
I kinda
time.
doubt
He's
it.
like, there's going to be a major shift in leadership.
Things are going to totes change, baby.
That's what he says. And he's talking to Scarface, who's like one
He
of
talks to
the
Scarface.
Cobra henchmen guy. And Scarface
Yeah, he's a Cobra guardsman.
is like, oh, I mean, yeah, he's going, but, you know, Baroness is flying the plane. He's like, what do you mean Baroness is flying the plane? And now he's got to get there because
He's got to get there to save his lady.
was using G.I. Joe by giving them the information on where Cobra Commander was so they would go and get him. And then he can take over Cobra.
Cobra Commander thinks that the Joes have been fed false intel and that the map is sending them on a wild goose chase. But little does he know that Destro double-crossed him and made sure that they got the goods. Twist again, Baroness went with Cobra Commander to Springfield, which was not part of the plan. Meanwhile, Snake Eyes and Dr. Venom escape the bunker where Quinn has been left for dead. Dr. Venom cold cocks him with a wrench, and they're like, well, I guess we got to get out of here.
Well, first,
Even
Quinn
though
uses a bunch of his Native American powers in his head. He's like, ancestors, give me the
he
power
channels the strength of the bear,
of
whatever,
the mighty
and opens the door,
beaver
yeah.
to open this door. Spirit of the
Yes,
bear,
it's
give me
very
strength. Spirit of the weasel, give me counsel to outwit this Dr. Venom.
it's not great.
No.
It's not great.
Quinn actually has like a long history. I didn't even know. Like this character was like in the G.I. Joe comics quite a bit. Didn't get an action figure until recently. Super 7 actually made him a reaction figure. It's awesome.
Oh, fun.
Yeah.
So Snake Eyes and Venom escape, only to be captured by a wandering band of Cobra troopers. They had been wandering around dressed like renegade G.I. Joes, I guess, or military guys.
I think they were just, supposed to be like
they were dressed as like
not Cobra soldiers, I mean, basically.
Right, yes.
In quotes.
And but shit went bad, and they've been wandering around ever since. They find Snake Eyes and Dr. Venom captured. The Joes arrive in Springfield, but they're ambushed by Destro and his squad of troopers. He has got to save his lady. Destro's squad succeeds in stopping the Joes just long enough for Cobra Commander and the Baroness to escape in the rocket. Elsewhere, there are signs of life stirring in the Cobra bunker.
Uh-oh.
I know. Fun fact, the next issue, number 15, was the first G.I. Joe comic I ever read. It was packaged with issues 16 and 17 in digest format that Marvel sold on newsstands. And in my case, the checkout line at Albertsons grocery store in Bellevue.
Nice.
And so I knew all about Quinn. I was like, oh, Quinn. And then, the next one is where Quinn escapes from the water, rescues Snake Eyes and Dr. Venom, and then they got to steal a plane and fly to Coney Island for reasons that escape me.
Hot dogs.
But
They want to get hot dogs.
they want a hot dog and they want to ride the Ferris wheel.
Quinn's relationship it's fairly interesting. He's a complex guy. You know,
Well, I mean, look, Quinn is a mercenary.
Yeah.
He's also just been betrayed by somebody, I guess, that he's allegedly working for or working for the same people.
Yeah, I guess.
And so his allegiance is no longer to Dr. Venom. Like,
No,
he's
no,
like,
no.
yo, you left me for dead.
Right.
your ass is grass.
More
And
importantly, though,
Snake Eyes stops him from killing him.
more importantly, we're here to talk about Destro. And Destro, this is the first time that we're really seeing that Destro is
We see Destro in action.
one, in action, which is rad. He's a badass and he has no problem holding off the Joes. Two, we start to learn that Destro thinks Cobra Commander is a total idiot and wants to bump him off and get him out of there so he can run Cobra. And he like trusts the Baroness enough to tell her this stuff. This is like, we're starting to realize, oh man, this dude's a master tactician. And then like when everything goes down and the Joes show up and he wants to get his lady out of there, he also happens to be the guy that saved Cobra Commander from the Joes that he knew were already going there. Like this guy playing 4-dimensional chess.
I mean, just because like we will never know. I mean, maybe if we keep reading, we'll find out, but we will never know if Cobra Commander ever figures out why the Joes actually went to the right place.
Not important.
It's not important for these purposes.
Yeah,
for this exercise. Destro almost immediately. 3 issues in, first appeared in 11, and 3 issues later, he's like, fuck Cobra Commander.
He's done with Cobra Commander's dumb shit. This is your first appearance of Ace, the Sky Striker pilot. That's kind of fun.
The Sky Striker.
Did you also know that Ace is a gambling addict?
You know, everybody's got a name for a reason.
Larry Hama gave all these characters, like, they all had like one personality trait, you know, like Shipwreck was like to party and probably kiss dudes, which whatever,
pirate.
You know,
Shipwreck, obsessed with pirates.
Yeah. But Sky Striker, he's a gambling addict and his buddies never saw him lose a bet. Ooh.
Yeah. You're not wrong.
He's a badass.
I mean, these characters had to be distilled for a 3-paragraph long biography on the back of a
Sure.
placard.
Yeah.
So it's not like we've got
fun.
Full Marvel handbook level style backstories.
However, you have characters like Destro, who we're already learning has layers and layers and layers. Like the bad guy here, I would argue he's the most, right now in the G.I. Joe comic, even with 2 appearances, easily the most interesting character they've introduced in this series so far.
Well, I mean, yeah, and we don't really know much about Cobra Commander other than he doesn't seem to be doing a very good job fighting against G.I. Joe.
He's a man of mystery and his subordinates think he kind of sucks at his job. That's all we really know.
And they're not at all wrong, to be fair.
No, and not afraid to try and kill him, which, as you'll see, is going to happen a lot. As a matter of fact, it happens again right here in the pages of G.I. Joe, A Real American Hero, number 33. It's from Marvel. This shipped in December 1984. It's written by Larry Hama, cover by Mike Zeck and John Beatty. It is a hell of a cover. Yeah, he's got a hand with a handgun pointing at a hooded Cobra Commander
under fire from an assassin with a unusually adult looking hand.
It's certainly larger than the hand that turns out to be holding it. I'll give you that. Art by Frank Springer, inks by Andy Mashinsky, colors by George Rousseau, and letters by Rick Parker. Frank Springer, is that a name I should know?
Frank Springer was around for many, many, many years. He did stuff here and there at Marvel.
He's got a real classic
80s and 90s.
He's got a real classic look to his art, like very classic Marvel style, and like looks like he came out of old school military comics maybe. Because this is like, even at this point, even Snake Eyes doesn't look as superhero as he would later. Like Snake Eyes just kind of looks like a dude in a black costume with a mask on, you know? I would argue no one here is looking real superhero at this point yet.
So Frank Springer is best known for his work on Dazzler and Nick Fury, Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Okay.
Primarily a cartoonist. He's won a ton of awards, but he did do a lot of work for Marvel and DC for that matter.
Okay.
But yes, he's a name that you probably saw a few times as a kid. He passed away in 2009. R.I.P.
Frank. We hardly knew you.
I mean, he was born in 1929, so he was old.
Near mint value in this one, about $6. CGC 9.8, $75. And I can only imagine that's because of Billy, who we'll get to in a minute here.
I mean, I think that if we learned anything from the Midnight Suns episodes, it's that $60 to $75 is sort of the baseline for all of these CGC
yeah,
comics?
probably. Like that means it's just someone's covering the cost of getting their book.
Has been CGC.
Yeah,
is the reason for this value.
I think so. Our story is a really fun one, I'm going to say. This is probably the one I had the most fun reading. The Joes are preparing for the new Pitts opening ceremony, but catering is going to be a huge problem because none of the cooks have clearance to enter the new Joe HQ. It's great.
Oh.
Scarlet visits Snake Eyes, Airborne, and Spirit in the infirmary. They were injured in the previous mission and saved by the Soft Master. Now, we don't
Ninja shit.
Yeah, ninja shit. But the Soft Master does not look like a ninja. He looks a lot more like a Mr. Miyagi type.
He's an old man.
Yeah, he's an old dude. The Soft Master also gave Scarlet the skinny on Snake Eyes history, so she's like, I want to talk to you later, Mr. Ninja Man. Spirit, however, has secretly left the infirmary with a little help from Ripcord and Blowtorch, and he's heading to the Staten Island Mall in search of herbal remedies for his leg injury.
Yeah.
Woo-hoo.
Again with the ethnic, leaning heavily on the ethnic.
Look, the Joes, they all had they were specialists that had one thing, and Spirits was Native American. There you go.
Right.
While at the mall, the three Joes discover Cobra agents undercover posing as an entire family. And I mean like little kids and everything.
Okay, now, this is going to be important later.
Yeah. The father of the family specifically.
He's somebody. I don't want to get into it quite yet. I don't know should we save it for the last one?
No. I think go ahead and say it.
Okay.
Bust it out.
This guy's name is Fred.
Right.
Except he's not Fred. He's Fred 2.
Yeah, something happened to Fred 1, and Fred 2 is here to be the new dad.
Because this is an undercover, a family posing undercover. They are Cobra agents. Fred was a real guy, Fred, whatever his name was, and he did have a family. And this is his family, and his kids are real. But they were just evil. They were evil.
Right, they're evil kids.
And so this guy, Fred 2, has replaced their dad, and the kids obviously know it.
Right. I mean,
and so throughout the issue, they're like, why are you acting like that's our dad? We know that's not our dad.
They're part of the Cobra Youth Brigade, which we're going to learn more about in a little bit here. So,
yes. This is Fred number 2, and Fred is somebody that we will hear from again in this episode.
So the Joes discover Fred 2's secret and the family takes off. They blow up the vehicle they drove to the mall in. What are the Joes to do? How can they pursue these escaping Cobras? They jump in Bongo the balloon delivering bears delivery van. And Bongo, just somebody like delivering balloons, whatever.
Bongos.
But Bongo
dressed like a bear.
Does this in the bear costume, drives around in the bear costume, right? Back in Springfield, Major Blood and the Baroness are preparing a member of the Cobra Youth Brigade for an assassination attempt on Cobra Commander. The child, Billy, is part of a parade that ends in the Springfield Stadium where he will meet Cobra Commander, read him a very well-written, sinister poem. Roses are red, violets are blue, cobras are deadly,
and so are you.
And then he's like, that's a really dumb poem. Who wrote it anyway? And Major Blood's like, never mind. It was written by a master poet.
Oh, it was written by Major Blood. Because that's Major Blood's thing, is that he's a poet.
Yeah, he's pissed off about it. Yeah. That's his one thing, his one other personality.
His one thing, his one personal characteristic is that he is a terrible poet.
Yeah. However, we find out Destro isn't fully on board with them using a kid to kill Cobra Commander. He doesn't know who the kid is yet, but he doesn't like this idea because Destro, like we talked about,
scruples.
Yeah, I mean, he's got an honor code. It's a weird one, and only he understands it, I guess. I don't know.
I mean, yeah, that's fair.
In the stadium, Storm Shadow is checking security for Cobra Commander, while back in Staten Island, Spirit, Bongo, and the other Joes are in a high-speed pursuit of the undercover Cobra family. Now,
where's my Bongo figure?
Yeah, tell me about it. Flash forward to the parade, and Billy approaches the stage where Cobra Commander is giving his speech, but he's nervous and he's sweating. And both Destro and Storm Shadow spot him instantly, but only Destro knows the child's real identity. Just as Storm Shadow sees Billy pull the gun, Destro jumps in, stops Storm Shadow from killing Billy, slaps the gun out of his hands, and he appears to have saved Cobra Commander in the act. Then Destro reveals to Cobra Commander that he couldn't allow Billy to kill him because Billy is Cobra Commander's son. Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah.
Revelations. Meanwhile, Spirit and the Joes lose the fleeing Cobra family. They're gone, but they end up using Bongo's balloons for the new pit's grand opening. And Ripcord discovers Bongo is actually a pretty sexy lady under that mask.
Which leads me to believe, Matt, that not only did Bongo stay in costume, but she spoke in a deep bear voice.
I guess she
because otherwise they would have immediately known.
Oh, unless he was like, I'm going to wait till this chick takes a mask off to see if she's good looking or not. Like, they're never just like, are you a dude? I don't know.
I choose to believe that she spoke in a cartoon.
I hope
voice
so.
I'm just proud to serve my country.
Right.
During the party, General Iron Butt Austin, love that nickname, promotes several Joes, including making Hawk the new commanding officer.
That explains why most of these Joes go away.
Yep.
Because there's new toys coming in.
That's right. We got a whole new line of toys, man. Here we learn quite a bit about Destro. He's a bad guy, but he's got his limits. We also learn that even Major Blood and the Baroness definitely want Cobra Commander dead.
I mean, that's kind of like the deal all the way through G.I. Joe.
I suppose.
Everyone's always looking to backstab each other.
I mean, I guess
like Zartan wants to backstab Cobra Commander. Major Blood wants to backstab Cobra Commander. But
specifically, it's all like all arrows point to Cobra Commander. He does not have any friends that really point back. Getting his back, right?
That part is true.
I thought the story was super silly, but it tied up really well. I mean, it was just fun.
The pit is an iconic G.I. Joe thing, and it's kind of weird to learn that it was 33 issues in before it was introduced.
Yeah, and it was just like right outside of Staten Island, I guess.
I mean,
sure,
but it's also like deep underground, buried underneath a military base. Like it's hidden.
Yeah. That's true. I'm giving this a huge
we find out in a future issue, and I can talk about that because I accidentally read the wrong issue.
Oh, I forgot.
The pit is buried underneath Fort whatever.
The big Destro reveal here is he takes his mask off for Baroness too to show her that he trusts her.
Which is weird because she's all shocked by it, but she already knew him though.
I guess this is why I don't think that stuff was fully fleshed out quite yet.
Maybe his face is all fucked up.
And they weren't sure where they were going. Well, I mean, maybe. I don't know. Maybe it's fucked up now, but we don't know. But she definitely passes out when he takes the mask off.
Yeah. I mean, I think the notion that they knew each other prior to his dealings with Cobra is something that they stuck with. I'm just not sure how it jives with the idea that he takes off his mask and something is so shocking to her that she faints.
That's what I'm saying. I think the nature of their relationship has changed by the time they get here to what they originally thought it was going to be when we were like, oh, they know each other. Because she knew his real name.
Look, I mean, is it safe to say that these are all going to be buyouts? Do we really need to go through these?
I mean, I think the exercise needs to be there so we let people know this one doesn't suck. Yeah, this is a buy it. It's a total buy it.
Yes, it's a buy it. It is goofy though. Like this is the first one. In this particular collection of issues, this is the first one where it's like, oh, right. G.I. Joe is a cartoon.
Right.
G.I. Joe is a cartoon and a toy line made for children because the shit with the identical group of undercover Cobra agents and the talking bear that nobody knows is a girl that they take into battle.
Sure.
I mean, it's all very silly. Very, very silly.
I would argue this one has the weakest art of the ones we've looked at.
So far, yeah. I liked Mike Vosberg's art better.
Yeah, I did too.
And Frank's
definitely. And I think the next artist, real solid. So question for you, and it's going to come up later, and we'll get into it then. How old is Billy here? If you're looking at this kid, 12?
I mean, he seems young.
14 at the oldest? What? He's a kid. He's like a scout.
He's dressed like a Cub Scout,
right?
Or a Boy Scout. So
we're going to say he's 12.
He's young in this comic.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. For the sake of argument, we'll say 12. Feel good about that?
Sure.
Okay. Because it's going to come up later, and we'll discuss it then.
I mean, I think people will figure it out by how we're being cagey about it, that he is decidedly less 12 the next time we see him.
Oh, yeah.
Next up is G.I. Joe 57. This is from 1986, so another bit of a time jump.
It's December 1986.
December, yes, I guess, for context, which means it came out in the fall. It's written by Larry Hama, art and cover by Ron Wagner. Inks are by Kim DeMolder. Colors are by George Russos. Letters are by Joe Rosen. It's near mint value $5 in 9.8 CGC, $135. So not exactly a key issue, but hey, they can't all be.
No, great cover though. Side by side with Destro.
Another great cover.
Yeah.
Yes.
Kind of a unbuttoned Lady J on that cover too. So for a kid's cover.
She's looking a little busty. Yeah.
Yeah.
She's got the goods on display.
Yeah.
But I mean, look.
Got to sell these comics. I get it.
Flint is showing some cleavage. Destro's showing it all the way down to his treasure trail.
Yeah, the deepest
this cover's
of V's.
got a theme, right? Everyone's putting on a little bit of a show.
Ain't no V deeper than a Destro V. I'll tell you what.
That's true. On board the USS Flag, Hawk informs Lady J and Flint that the analysis of the parts from the stolen Terrordrome is incomplete due to strange components traced to Destro's arms company, Mars, which stands for Military Arms Research Syndicate.
It's an easy one. I like that one.
Yeah. Both Destro and Cobra Commander are presumed dead after Cobra invaded the pit, and the Joes blew it up in issue 53, which I read by mistake because the G.I. Joe fandom wiki page had the wrong issue listed in the Best of Destro.
Yeah, come on, guys. But we had to introduce a new G.I. Joe headquarters and the biggest toy in the world, the USS Flag.
The USS Flag, baby.
Yeah.
In issue 53, Cobra invaded the pit while Hawk was giving this tour to several generals two generals and an admiral. So big wigs.
Gotcha.
And he was showing off the pit. Cobra invaded, and basically they blew up the pit because they had a chance to kill all of Cobra High Command in one fell swoop.
So they think they got him. They think they whacked Cobra Commander and Destro. However, our man Destro has been spotted in Glasgow, returning to his ancestral home castle. And we know it's Destro because he travels incognito. But when he goes to the airport, he promptly goes in the men's room and changes back into Destro
into his outfit. yeah.
In a public restroom.
Also, they knew it was him because they knew he had the mask in his briefcase, in his suitcase.
Yeah, you know.
He got scanned by security.
Yeah. I mean, like, we forget that, like, Destro he's not like an underground guy. Like, he walks around and does business dressed like this. He buys real estate dressed like this, you know?
I mean, yeah, he's a Scottish lord.
Yeah.
So technically speaking, I guess, unless there's hard evidence against him, it's like the Kingpin, right? Like, he's a citizen in good standing.
Yeah.
But if the Joes happen to bust him, like, in the midst of, like, selling missiles to a terrorist organization, well, then the jig is up.
Well, I mean, he's an arms dealer. Who knows? This stuff gets confusing. What's he supposed to do? You know?
Sure. Hawk sends Lady J and Flint to intercept Destro with the help of two British soldiers, offensively British. One is named Officer Smythe Barrett, a.k.a. Jingles, and the other is named Sergeant Day.
A.k.a. Sergeant Day.
Yep. They pass an RAF hangar, and Flint goes, "Oh, hey, I didn't realize the RAF had a hangar out here." And Smythe Barrett says they don't. This is just where they store larger exhibition pieces for, transport to museums and shit.
Right.
And I'm sure that's not foreshadowing in any way.
No. I doubt it comes up again.
So they're on their way to Castle Destro, which, by the way, again, is in Scotland.
By the way, called Castle Destro. That is its name. So.
Right, because Destro is, like, for us, it's easy to joke because Destro, we obviously know him to be a villain.
Right.
But that's their title. It's like being Lord of Cornwall. He's like Lord Destro.
Laird Destro.
Laird Destro. Sorry,
Destro.
yes. I'm sorry, it's Laird Destro.
Yeah.
At Castle Destro, the team observes Destro getting arrested because, twist, there's already someone impersonating Destro at the castle. And Destro's traditionally dressed Scottish security.
Dressed like old school Scottish Guard. They're private troops. My grandfather fancied the uniform.
Yes.
So they're wearing,
thank you.
They're wearing kilts. They got the furry boots on.
They're dressed like the Scots Guard, even though they have nothing to do with the Scots
Cute
Guard.
little Scottish hat with the tassels and everything. Yeah. They're adorable.
Yep. Lady J plans a jailbreak disguised as a lay sister of mercy. Simultaneously, the dumbest and most convincing costume perhaps ever devised. She infiltrates Destro's cell. Flint blasts a hole in the wall for their escape. In exchange for his freedom and exposing the imposter in Castle Destro, he offers the details of the terror drone plan.
Now, like, the only reason she had to go in there was basically to be like, get under this mattress. Someone's about to shoot a hole in the wall.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
I mean, they don't want to kill the dude.
No. And Hamlin's got a mattress theme that develops later.
Using an old glider from, surprise, surprise, the RAF hangar, Lady J, Smythe Barrett, and Destro fly to Castle Destro. Where is Sergeant Day? Oh, he's coming with Flint in Day's Rover.
It's a great scene, too, because they're pulling the old glider. Like, this is like right out of Fast and Furious shit. And a truck's coming right at them. They're like, we got to get this thing off the ground. Just as the truck's about to hit it.
It's not a plane. It's a glider.
Yeah, the glider takes off, Oh, it's great.
Yeah. The glider evades radar. They know to fly low because Destro's on there with him.
Right.
On board with him. But the rover is sent in on the ground to draw fire. In the castle, the imposter orders the guards to secure the plans room as the real Destro crashes the RAF glider into the greenhouse while Sergeant Day and Flint break through the front gate. The imposter barricades himself in the plan room, but Flint and Day drive the fucking rover into the castle through the barricaded door.
Upstairs!
We ain't got time for that shit.
Upstairs through the barricaded door.
That is British workmanship right there. The real Destro overpowers the imposter, revealing him to be Major Blood. I thought for sure it was going to be Destro or Zartan, but no, it was Major Blood.
I thought that was weird too.
I mean, G.I. Joe is known for having one super disguise artist, and it's Zartan.
Yeah, fuck you, Major Blood. That's Zartan's one thing.
Destro is a man of principle, as we have stated multiple times already. He gives the team the plans and allows them to leave.
He's not just a man of principle, though. He's a ladies' man, because he's like, one thing that's hard about making deals with beautiful women is you have to honor them. And then he like kisses her hand, like, whoa, hey there, Destro. We also get a really great, when the two Destros are fighting, and the soldiers, we get this, which one should we shoot? Like, that's how convincing Major Blood's outfit is. Although all you got to do is put on a silver mask, and I guess anybody can be Destro if you're ripped enough. Right?
I mean, I guess not to put too fine a point on it, but as long as you're a white dude,
well,
you can pull off looking like Destro.
I suppose a white dude who can do a very convincing black person voice on the cartoon.
Well, yes. We all know how Destro sounded. However, we did establish that Gung Ho in the comic doesn't sound like Gung Ho in the cartoon. So maybe comic book Destro sounds more Scottish.
Yeah, we never really got that moment where like Darth Vader takes off his mask and you're like, really? It's a white guy?
It's true. This is a great issue, I thought.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
The art is really good.
The art is super solid here. And I think this is really looking superhero G.I. Joe to me. Like, I mean, they're still military, definitely, but they're drawing them as full-on characters, right?
Yes, I agree.
And it looks really good. The story, again, is super silly. We get to see Destro, like, he's a total badass. He's a master tactician, kicks the shit out of Major Blood. No problem. Just whips his ass. So... I do like that but Destro also, he's a ladies' man. He can't resist. What can you do?
I mean, hey, we all knew it.
Yeah. But I mean, I guess his heart is not just reserved for the Baroness.
I mean, he's dating the hottest woman in the entire franchise.
Yeah,
so
I suppose. She didn't know what his face looked like, though, so I don't know.
Well, that's a mystery for another time.
Yeah, I guess.
This is a buy it. This was probably my favorite one so far.
Total buy it. Yeah, I think this is easily the best one we've read so far. And I think like this, at this point, G.I. Joe, if you go back and look at the covers just for like the previous and following issues, you will recognize every one of these covers because it was like must buy, must read G.I. Joe comic stuff. It was great.
Yeah, from like the mid 50s, or probably not the mid 50s, but probably that kind of mid chunk, where we got Mike Zeck covers and we got this stuff. To me, this is like a sweet spot with G.I. Joe where it much more resembles the G.I. Joe that I knew, the cartoon,
right,
and the toy line. Like the earlier issues were great, but you got to remember when G.I. Joe first came out, it was 8 dudes in slight variations of the same outfit.
Yeah, pretty much.
And very little to distinguish them.
They all had single syllable nicknames too.
Yeah. And eventually they were like, oh, we need to gussy this up. And we got guys like Destro, and we got characters with a lot more character, so to speak.
Right.
And yeah, so for me, this is like, we're getting into that heyday of G.I. Joe.
Let's jump ahead just a couple of years to G.I. Joe number 78. I'm going to argue we're still in that heyday here, although I would agree. There are some characters that I don't think were present in the cartoon at the time running around in these comics.
Yep, I agree, and we'll talk about that when we get there.
G.I. Joe number 78 from Marvel. This came out in June of 1988. It's written by Larry Hama, cover by Ron Wagner and Bob McLeod. It also features Grunt's girlfriend, Lola, who looks a lot like Sigourney Weaver on the cover, but not so much in the actual issue. So,
yeah, she's very clearly not a member of the G.I. Joe team. You wouldn't mistake her for anybody, and so why she's on the cover is anyone's guess.
Come on, she's Grunt's main squeeze. The kids loved her. I guess the movie Aliens had just come out in 1986. That was a couple of years ago, but they had Sigourney on the brain. Maybe this was around Ghostbusters time.
I mean, she had quite a year.
She owned the 80s. That's for certain.
84, 85, 86 yeah.
Art was by Ron Wiggum. Inks by Fred Fredericks. Colors by Bob Sharon. Letters by Rick Parker. Your near mint value, $5. This one's very affordable. CGC 9.8, $135. Oh. No, I mean, which is nothing real huge happens here, but like no even real new toys are introduced or anything. But
it's full of ninjas.
Sure.
And everybody loves the ninjas.
This story is called Payback. And the payback is because right now, Joes are on the run. Everybody thinks that they have committed treason. There was what is being billed as an unauthorized, unsanctioned attack on Cobra Island, but we're going to find out. The Joes were set up by General Malthus and Senator Hagel, who were trying to cover their tracks and holding Hawk and General Hollingsworth hostage. Billy, Jinx, and Storm Shadow arrive at Dulles Airport in Washington, D.C., and they're confronted by government agents from the Domestic Operations Agency, better known as DOA. No way, they're bad guys, right?
Yeah. This first page is pretty much everything you need to know about Larry Hama's G.I. Joe.
Yeah.
Because it's like 5 different acronyms. And he's just like,
we're being roused by the feds. Storm Shadow. What are these guys? CIA, DIA, CID, or NSA?
The only thing missing was like a very detailed description of a firearm.
Right. And we should mention, this is Storm Shadow out of costume siding with the Joes. I thought it was Quick Kick at first because there aren't a lot of other Asian Joes running around, but this is straight up Storm Shadow as a good guy right now.
It's Storm Shadow, Jinx, and Billy.
Yeah. And our boy Billy, who we mentioned earlier. Billy,
as I said, decidedly not 12.
He is definitely not 12. He's got an eye patch, and he's basically Storm Shadow's apprentice at this point.
This kid looks like he could be every bit of 16, 17.
Yeah, definitely.
I think that the art maybe kind of didn't get the memo that he's not supposed to be this old.
Okay.
Because he does look like he could vote.
I didn't know. I just thought Billy has joined the team at this point.
He looks like he could legally join the military.
Yeah, he's been through some shit.
But the last time we saw Billy, he was definitely a child.
Right.
For my headcanon, I'm going to say that Billy is at most 15.
Oh, fair enough. I mean, hey, it doesn't bother us when Robin does this stuff, so I don't know.
I know, but I mean, it's
why
so
should we
jarring,
be offended
though.
by Billy doing it? Although I will say, if you
read it the way we did, it's so jarring that like literally the last time you see him, he is wearing short pants and is like 4 feet tall.
It is not as jarring as I would say Jinx's hair.
Jinx's hair is real bad.
Wow.
It is a 1980s super lady mullet.
Oh, yeah. It is something. Like Brigitte Nielsen as Mrs. Ivan Drago. You know,
yeah. So back to Billy. You asked about this. Many issues prior, I'm going to say, gosh, 10 or more issues prior. Cobra Commander and Destro are still presumed dead after that shit that went down at the pit. The Joes have now been framed for this attack on Cobra Island. Well, in the meantime, Billy is in a terrible car accident. He gets taken by a drunk driver. They get in a car accident and he loses a leg and an eye. When Cobra Commander and Destro...
Did you say he got kidnapped by a drunk driver?
He was... I don't know if he was kidnapped or
like the kidnapper was wasted.
So I don't know if he was. I don't know if he was kidnapped or if she just like took him with her or whatever or what. But he ends up in the car with a drunk driver who wrecks and he is very gravely wounded. And so when Cobra Commander and Destro resurface, we find out that they've that in the pit, because it is deep underground, they have one of those big tunnel borers. You know, like you see in the like a mole man thing with a big drill bit on the end. Like you drive it and it's got a drill bit on the end.
Was that what this whole story was to get to?
But they come up, they survive and they come up through the ground in this mall, a different mall than the one where we met Fred and his family.
Sure.
They come up in a mall after hours and they put on disguises and then they go visit Billy. And that's where we learned, that's where I saw for the first time that Cobra Commander, it's like super duper broken up because he heard about what happened to his son.
Well,
and he's like,
kid,
I could have been there for Billy.
I mean, he's got, he's evil, but he's got feelings, Joe.
Yeah, no, of course. And then, but then that was like, man. The dude had Chris Claremont levels patience for building plots because that was 20 issues prior to this.
He had Chris Claremont levels of design for their outfits too, because Billy wears an eye patch and a jacket that's unzipped and what appears to be a fishnet top.
I mean, sure. Yeah. It's the 80s.
Woo! I guess so.
Also the sleeves on his jacket are rolled way up.
Okay, so we're still on page 1, so we got to go.
Sorry.
Yeah.
We had lots to say. We had lots to recap. When last we left our Joes, this is what happened.
So Storm Shadow, Jinx, and Billy get picked up by the DOA, but of course they escape and they jump into a car. It just happens to be rock and roll, and he's driving a yellow sedan with flames on the hood and on the wheel wells, but this ain't no regular yellow sedan. This one's painted with tempera paint, I guess, because they pull into a car wash and wash all the paint off real quick.
Water soluble paint. Yes.
And then it's just a G.I. Joe car that they drive away in, you know? They're trying to ditch their tail, right?
It is an MP's sedan.
The Joes were coming to DC because all the Joes are on the run. They've been hiding out at Dr. Adele Burkhart's house. She didn't go to school for 8 years to be called Adele, all right? Where...
if that name is familiar to you, she is the character that appears in the Duke miniseries from Skybound.
Oh, okay. She's also they're at her place because they're planning a rescue mission, and they're there because she's the doctor they rescued in G.I. Joe issue number 1 as part. Yep. The storyline was called Lady Doomsday because that was the name of the mission, but it wasn't officially the mission name. So only G.I. Joes would know that. And Roadblock was like, hey, everybody, go to Lady Doomsday's house. And I was like, what does that mean?
Yeah. It's very clever internal code. But yeah, Adele Burkhart, she is like this classic G.I. Joe character. They revived her for the Duke miniseries and, you know, killed her off. But hey, things happen.
Whatever.
But it was a fun little like Easter egg for old Joe fans.
That's
it's like
fun.
Adele Burkhart.
But again, Hama reaching all the way back to issue 1 for a reference here. Impressive, bro. This is where we meet Grunt's girlfriend, Lola, who's just been hanging out. And I believe her only line is, "Hi, I'm Lola."
I'm pretty sure you're right.
I think so. Later on, she's firing a machine gun, but we'll get there. We cut to Destro and Baroness in a helicopter. They're heading to DC as well, but not to stop the Joes. Destro wants to come and clear the Joes. And Baroness is like, "What are you doing, dude?" And he's like, "You got to trust me here." Again, the man has layers, if nothing else.
Real quick. Before we get too far along, I want to address some things that happened. While they're still at Dr. Doomsday's house, Lola does have a line because they are talking about the plan and they have suited Lola up in a military jumpsuit, or she was already wearing one. They put a bandolier of bullets around her and give her a giant machine gun.
Sure.
And she says the line, "The rest of us kick in the front door and start shooting?" ? So they are taking this woman into battle.
Oh, yeah.
Who the hell is Lola?
She's Grunt's girlfriend. She knows what's up. If you're hanging with Grunt, then you must be pretty hard. While we're back at the Doc's house and they're planning the rescue, Jinx reveals that she discovered this payroll that shows that there's all this extra security going to this rural Virginia hospital. They've got to be holding him there, right? And while this is going on in the background, Grunt is showing his machine gun to, who is it?
Rock and Roll is showing his machine gun to Grunt.
Is showing his machine gun to Grunt, and Grunt looks at it and says, "Nice hog."
Nice hog.
Love it. Roadblock is going to be running the rescue mission, and after Lola mentions, "Well, we just kick open the door and start shooting," Roadblock's like, "No, dude. Look, I realize this is your first day as a special missions covert op.
I know that you actually work at Chili's,
right.
But that's not how we do it.
We're on the run. We're not just going to bust open the door and open fire in a hospital." All right. Once they get to the hospital, everybody dresses up. We're going to dress up, like as secret doctors to Joes, but they're all dressed like doctors. But Joe,
this is where it gets super fucking confusing.
How are they going to tell who is actually a bad guy that's impersonating not only doctors in the hospital, but also patients? And we know they're bad guys because everyone is wearing sunglasses.
Everyone in the hospital is wearing sunglasses.
Cancer patients with sunglasses on.
Everyone in the hospital. Doctor, patient, janitor, everybody.
It's great.
They're wearing sunglasses.
Because they're bad. But the Joes will be able to tell each other apart because they have special sunglasses that allow them to see that the G.I. Joe disguises are actually basically like G.I. Joe pajamas that have the word G.I. Joe printed randomly all over them.
In glow-in-the-dark letters, yeah.
It's great. I love it.
It's so stupid.
Dr. Burkhart storms into the hospital in front of the press. The TV's there and everything because she was like, "You guys get here. We're going to expose what's going on." She demands to see Hawk and Hollingsworth, who are being held hostage. While this is happening, the Ninja Force, or two ninjas and Billy, who is in training, crash through the windows and they attack. The undercover bad guys just like open fire, start shooting. Bazooka gets shot. Cover Girl gets shot. And now it's Lola's time to shine.
Lola is a woman that Grunt met at Georgia Tech. She had served for 4 years in the U.S. Army as a helicopter mechanic for the Air Cavalry.
So she's got background.
Her service paid for her college education. Thank you, GI Bill. Grunt and Lola were also part of the group Roadblock assembled against General Malthus's witch hunt towards the GI Joe team. I believe that in this continuity, this might be the only appearance of Lola. However, she does make a comeback in the Devil's Due comics, where it is revealed that Grunt and Lola got married.
Oh, that's sweet. That's very sweet.
Yeah.
Well, let's cut back to the action. There's machine gun fire everywhere. Lola's firing her gun. We know she's got a military background, so that makes it a little more believable, I guess. Thank you for that factoid. One thing that I had a problem with, Dr. Burkhart.
Thank you, Dr. Burkhart.
Not only like is she like a pacifist, doesn't want any part of this, she is not scared of. She's such a pacifist. She's not scared of gunfire. She's like, this is an outrage. I am
She
a
refuses to
non-combatant.
even be hit by a bullet. Yeah.
It's great.
She brazenly and defiantly stands in full view of a dozen gunmen.
Bullets are not only whizzing by her, one hits her briefcase, in her hand, and she does not care. Or drop the briefcase.
It goes zing, and she just hangs on.
Yeah. So this looks really bad, but the press is like, hey, the Joes are trying to protect everybody. These other guys are going crazy. General Malthus then pulls a hand grenade and throws it into the room where Hawk and Hollingsworth are trying to be held to silence the witnesses. But
once again, they duck underneath a mattress.
Yeah, there's a lot of that.
The one thing impervious to all explosions in the G.I. Joe.
Pretty much, mattresses. Rollback captures Malthus, who's yelling at the cameras about Joe's irresponsible attack on the Cobra Island and now this hospital, when suddenly our boy Destro appears. It doesn't just appear, literally swings in through the window.
He lowers down from presumably a helicopter on one of those rope ladders, and he steps in, and in full view of the cameras, he says, "You forgot your receipt for all those illegal arms you bought, General. I thought you should probably have it for your records. Okay, bye."
Busted, but I don't think he leaves.
I believe that is literally the only thing Destro does in this entire issue.
Pretty much. Shows up just to clear the Joe's name, show that he's got the receipts for this guy that screwed everybody over, reveal he is alive to the whole world and on camera, and also admit to some pretty huge crimes. Not only am I alive,
he is a legitimate armaments corporation, and he sold weapons to the U.S. military.
I guess.
Presumably legally.
Maybe he thought it was legal. I don't know.
Well, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Yeah. We all know better.
Go figure.
But like, yo, General, you want to play with fire, you're about to get burned.
Right. Again, very silly issue, but Hamma's just working here and doing such a great job, calling back to all manner of stuff. Billy looks great. he's a little older when we last remember him.
The mesh t-shirt thing it's peak 80s.
He's hard. He's training as a ninja now. You got to wear shit.
I'm
like
kind of shocked. Like if you said that this came out in 1988, we're a little bit beyond the mesh shirt era.
Larry Hama.
Maybe I'm wrong.
Well, Hama and company were still Loverboy fans, and Billy sure looks like he's working for the weekend in this one, if you know what I mean.
No. Some of us never got past it.
I'm giving this a huge buy it, though. This issue is great. And G.I. Joe,
yes, it's a fun issue.
Their name is cleared. We can get back to G.I. Joe stuff now. No more of this running and hiding and playing the cover. Yeah.
This is the first time we see Destro in his redesigned outfit.
True.
In the late 80s.
Gold Destro. Yeah.
In the late 80s, Hasbro rebranded Destro and kind of gave him this entire offshoot line. Sort of like how the Dreadnoughts are their own thing.
Yeah.
Destro had his own army called the Iron Grenadiers. And it came with like tanks that all shared like design aesthetic. He had his own second in command, who we will meet in our next chapter. And and then Destro got this very fancy like dress uniform where it like almost looks like military dress, right? Like this is what Destro would wear to go to a fancy party.
Yeah. Like there's versions of it where it's got like cheetah print and stuff. Like it was hot.
Yeah. I mean, it's got a cape.
Yeah.
The only thing that strikes me as odd about it is they've changed his face to gold, and the silver mask thing is sort of like,
well, they've really reinforced that the silver mask
culturally significant
is to his family anyway.
To his family is what I mean. I couldn't think of the
clan
term
significant, perhaps, but yeah. So
and so for him to be wearing a gold mask seems weird, but maybe it's like
I think he's making a statement. I think he's like, look, I'm the most Destro that ever Destroed. Deal with it, fam.
But I also don't know, like, why did Destro rebrand? Maybe Destro's on the outs with the Mars Corporation. You know, maybe he's been ousted from Clan Destro. Maybe this is... I'd have to do some research. I'm just speculating.
Lay it on us, G.I. Joe nerds, if you know. But
I mean, it's something that I would certainly expect Larry Hama to have a reason for.
My thinking is they wanted another Destro figure, and
I understand the
and
reality,
they were like,
but
figure it out, creators.
You don't think Larry Hama didn't have a reason why Destro decided that he was no longer about that silver mask life? I mean, come on.
I don't know. If he did, we didn't read it here. So, and I figured that would be in this kind of thing if there was something big. I don't know.
It's true. It's true. We're going to take a brief break from G.I. Joe, A Real American Hero, and hop across the pond for a special interlude told in the pages of Action Force, a weekly magazine published in the UK under Marvel UK. This is from issues 44 and 45, which were both published in January 1988. It's written and penciled by Mike Collins with inks and covers by Brian Hitch. That dude was all over Marvel UK at the start.
Yeah, man.
Colors, because it's England, are by Ewan Peters or Owen. I'm not sure how you pronounce that name. I apologize. EUAN. Letters are by Annie H.
So they called this magazine Action Force because when the toys came out in the UK, they marketed it as Action Force. Because there was no comic yet. There was no story yet. They were just action figures. And they were like, well, G.I. Joe is too American. Let's call it Action Force for the UK. And then they were just like, well, we want these comics and stuff, but Action Force is already selling here. So we're just going to call it Action Force, and we will definitely use the name G.I. Joe in the comic.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah. I mean, Transformers was running over there as well, but you could just call that Transformers because it was what it was. So, I mean,
right. Yeah, I mean, yeah. Our story opens with a confused Destro staggering through an alley in Morocco. He's disheveled. He's got no memory. And he says, "Who am I?" On the cover, we have Destro saying, "Who am I?" Destro gets jumped by thugs in the street who beat him up and steal his medallion. But when they try to take his mask, something snaps and he finds the strength to beat them back.
Yeah, he has like a Jason Bourne treadstone moment, right? And just like murder somebody with a
with
a book. Death, yeah. And then he's like, well, where did I learn that? You know?
Right. After the fight, a weakened Destro is helped by a stranger named Jenna who takes him to her grandfather's house, Hajid, where he can heal. Destro tells him he's forgotten his memory. So Jenna calls him Silver for his handsome mask.
And Jenna just assumes, hey, you got to be a hero. Look at you, man. You don't
calls it a hero's garb.
You don't look evil at all. It's like, Jenna, sweetheart.
You're wearing all black. Your chest is exposed. You must be a good guy.
Not what good guys look like.
Yeah. After another 2 days, Destro feels ready to leave the house, but Jenna tells him his wounds are not yet healed. He thinks his body's fine, so he takes off his mask to see his face, and then he quickly puts it back on.
Yeah.
She says to him that his mask makes him look heroic, and in his thoughts, he embraces the idea.
Yeah, he's like, oh yeah, I must be a hero. I can't remember anything. You're probably right.
I'm wearing a costume, aren't I? How can I not be a hero?
Jenna's probably got a history of bringing home a lot of shitty dudes. Like, she dated some real pieces of crap. Like, she's just not good at this.
She exercises very poor judgment. Yeah. Suddenly, Hajid staggers in, having been fatally attacked in the street by men looking for Silver and wearing the mark of the serpent.
Ooh.
Well, Hajid then passes away. R.I.P. Hajid.
They beat him up just bad enough that he could make it home to die. He's an old guy.
Yeah,
Sure.
In the street, Cobra troopers are attacking street vendors trying to get info on Destro's whereabouts. Thinking that he might be a hero after all, he thanks Jenna and then pieces out to attack the Cobra troops, but they've got him outgunned and outnumbered. And then he realizes that I've been trained to fight fools like these.
It's great.
End of chapter number 45.
Well, his memory starts to come back to him because he gets bonked on the head by like the butt of a gun, and that's how they stop him. And you see this look in his eye when he looks up, and he was like, oh, okay. I think I've been trained to beat people like this up.
I got this. Yeah. So it's a short story. The Action Force mostly reprints, except for 7 or 8 pages per issue. So that was just a brief chapter. Moving on now to number 45, same creative team. In the street, Jenna smashes a pot over the head of the Cobra Trooper holding Destro at gunpoint, and they escape. Destro is feeling very guilty for Hajid's death, and the street vendor's getting beaten. He certainly is thinking like a hero.
Yeah.
He's got guilt.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think part of him wants to believe what Jenna's saying.
I agree with you.
Because we've learned from Destro, he's got layers. He's got a code of honor. Somewhere in his head, he's like, I'm not a bad guy. And
he's not about beating innocent people and old men to death in the street.
But he is a businessman,
He's cool. Yeah. He tells Jenna that he has to leave before she gets hurt. They bury Grandpa. Jenna is worried that Destro can't remember anything and she wants to come with. Suddenly, he has a flash of memory and Dad is wearing the silver mask.
Yeah, Dad's head is a little bigger though. He's got like a Daddy Warbucks thing going on, or a Kingpin maybe. He's wearing the mask, but like Dad's head is bigger than Destro's head. He's kind of a Kingpin looking guy.
He's wearing a mask. It might not be the same mask.
Right.
Destro agrees to take her, but first he needs to sleep and dream of his past. As he dreams, a younger Destro, older than he was in the first flashback,
right,
is confronted by his father, who knew about Destro's business schemes and disapproved of what it would do to the family name. Now, this is a little bit of the continuity going wonky.
Yeah.
Because,
maybe not. I mean, I think it's just
maybe not.
I think Destro wanted to maybe get into some, they don't explicitly say it, but it's this very much like, you're an old man. Times have changed. We gotta change with the times. Right. And I think it's Destro saying look, we can get in bed with even scuzzier people than you're currently selling weapons to. I
mean, Daddy Destro is still an arms dealer.
I'm not saying he's not.
Wouldn't you think? Yeah,
but I think Destro wanted to get in even deeper than what Dad wanted, which is why Dad's like, you're going to ruin our family name or whatever, Yeah.
And it's a little bit difficult to parse with all of the different time frames we're dealing with, because when we talk about Destro number 1, we get an origin of Clan Destro that may not actually be classically considered canon. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So I don't know. But I mean, we definitely know that there's a long line of Destros and they all wore the mask.
Yeah.
So they're not up to, they ain't building hospitals.
And this is where we learn the guy with the mask is in charge.
The guy with the mask is in charge.
You are Destro Senior.
So I love that in this flashback, Destro is wearing his deep feed costume.
Yeah.
He just doesn't have the mask on.
No.
And he's got a luscious head of hair.
He's just a young, good looking, fully,
we assume he's good looking,
full head of hair guy, Yeah.
So Dad disapproves. Destro dreams of fighting with his dad. Like Matt said, there's this classic, you're an old man, times have changed, yada, yada, yada. We know that whoever wears the mask rules the family, rules the clan. Destro kills his dad, puts on the mask. Now he is Destro.
We have an origin of Destro. The first origin of Destro, told in Marvel UK in a reprint magazine that neither you or I would have any business finding in a comic book store at this time.
Not in America, no.
Come on, Marvel, what are you doing?
I mean, not in America in 1989.
No.
Destro wakes up to Jenna screaming while being attacked by a Cobra soldier. He attacks the guard, and during the struggle, the gun fires and hits Jenna.
Who could have seen that coming?
I know.
I mean, come on.
Destro throws the guard aside and holds Jenna as she dies. The Cobra soldier says, "How touching, how pitiful. How unlike you, Destro." We've been calling him Destro the whole time, but this is the first time he's actually hearing the name Destro since he lost his memory. And just like that,
as soon as the Cobra guy says the word Destro, it all comes flooding back. And he shoots the guy, and then he stands on a great final panel. Destro, my name is Destro. I supply arms to the scum and psychotics who are prepared to pay. I killed my father so that I could rule his empire. I am not Silver. I am no hero. I remember now. I remember who did this to me. He's a dead man. Farouk! Don't worry about it. Not important.
Yeah. I have a feeling that anything that happened in Action Force is really not followed up on in the American comic.
Absolutely not. Because I don't remember anything about Farouk or anything like that going on in the American comics. So
nor do I think that the reason that Destro has amnesia to begin with happened in the American comic. I think it all happened in Action Force.
I think this is very much like the Transformers book where they were like, do whatever you want. Doesn't matter. American kids are never going to see this, so you're not going to mess with continuity. And they were able to weave an entire Transformers, story and story points that we never even heard of over here. Same thing was going on with G.I. Joe. So whatever. I
mean, and Simon Furman is the Larry Hama of British Transformers.
Yeah, pretty much.
The dude wrote that Transformers comic in England.
He wrote several G.I. Joe stories for Action Force as well. So.
Yes. But he wrote that Transformers comic years and years after the American comic ended.
Oh yeah, it did. It was because it was a huge seller. We've read some of them on the show. They were really good. They are crazy. We jump back for our final classic Destro tale in G.I. Joe, A Real American Hero, number 87 from Marvel USA. It's 1989. This one came out, written by Larry Hama, pencils by Tony Salmons, inks by Randy Emberlin, colors by Bob Sharon, letters by Rick Parker, cover by Marshall Rogers. Wow.
The legendary Batman artist, Marshall Rogers.
Near mint value $6, CGC 9.8, 215. Not enough for a Marshall Rogers cover this cool. I'll tell you what. This is a great cover. Again, gold Destro on the cover. Driving I can't remember what this vehicle was called. His flying.
I don't either, but that's part of the Iron Grenadiers thing. It's one of his branded.
Oh, man. It's so cool. Story is called Assault on Castle Destro. In Scotland, Destro and the Baroness discover that their neighbor, Lord Malaprop, love that name. And of course, because we're in Scotland, he is a struggling frozen haggis magnet. He was just, he wanted to take the pain in the ass that is making haggis and just get straight to the enjoyment.
He wanted to bring it to the people. Yeah. He wanted to bring it mainstream.
Right.
Yeah. He was the Horace Birdseye of Scotland.
Truly. Lord Malaprop has opened a trailer park on his estate, which is suspiciously accompanied by a carnival and droves of shady travelers camping in the woods. Baroness worries for the castle's safety. Probably smart thinking.
I think, she's not, she's no dummy.
No. Back at Castle Destro, Voltar announces that he has secretly deployed squadrons, not the Voltar that used to work with Space Ghost, different one. Deployed squadrons.
That's Moltar.
Oh, Moltar, you're right.
That worked with Space Ghost.
Yeah. Voltar announces that he has secretly deployed squadrons around the countryside to ensure that their heaviest weapons aren't trapped inside the castle in the event of an attack. Good idea.
These guys are really firing on all cylinders, even though they have no reason to believe that they're in any danger.
No, but I mean, still, at Castle Destro, shit goes down. We've learned the hard way.
Yeah, well, we already know shit goes down at Castle Destro.
Sometimes Destro comes home and there's already a Destro there. There's all kinds of shit that happens here.
You never know when someone's gonna drive a Jeep up the stairs.
Sure. Meanwhile, Flint and Sneak Peek, I totally forgot about Sneak Peek.
Yeah,
are spying on Destro, and they're suspicious about the movements coming from the castle, while Shockwave and Outback discover that the Carnies and Trailer Park Boys are secretly Cobra agents. No shit. Everyone is secretly a Cobra agent, you guys.
Do you know how they found out, though?
How?
It's because somebody, one of the Carnies or somebody at the trailer park was drinking a soda can, and they threw the can into nature instead of into a trash can, and it was Cobra Cola.
Yeah, Outback catches
Cobra doesn't know how to be incognito.
No, they're terrible.
Brand your evil soda with your own evil name.
Well, and even when they are careful and they're like, no, we're gonna hide here. We're gonna call this corporation Arbacco. Which is just Cobra backwards.
Yeah.
They're bad at this.
Arbok? It was Arbok.
Yeah. The Baroness and Destro also discover something is amiss with their strange visitors. The trailer park encampment turns out to be a front for Cobra Commander and Dr. Mindbender. You would think Destro, been working with these people for a while, he should be able to spot something like this. Like right off the bat. You know?
I mean, so here we are again, though. I think that Cobra Commander is very clearly on the outs with Destro.
Yeah, definitely.
Because we already have evidence from the last issue that Destro is on his own, doing his own thing.
Yeah.
Because he saves the G.I. Joe team and clears their good name. And now Cobra is just full on assaulting Castle Destro.
Right.
They want Destro dead.
Well, it's about time Cobra Commander turned on him, because Destro, in just the 4 issues we've talked about so far, has tried to kill Cobra Commander every time he's been around. So
that's true.
This Cobra Commander, we should mention, is wearing that big hunky armor, like the blue and silver armored Cobra Commander that they came out with. I was not crazy about that armor. I much prefer just.
I wanted it. I loved it so much. I got it as a kid. I was so thrilled.
It is,
and now as an adult, I look back and go, man, that's dumb.
It's dumb, and it is not drawn well here. I will say that.
It's got a nose, which is just really bad.
Yeah, it doesn't.
Very unfortunate.
Nope. The Carnival trucks release maggots, which were also on sale at that time, that attack Castle Destro and the Crimson Twins, Tomax and Zaymont. They send out a squadron of additional toy aisle friendly vehicles and soldiers. Yeah, this was definitely a rush in that like third wave of G.I. Joe toys, right?
But 1989, we've got a whole new crop of things. And things are starting to look way more sci-fi.
Definitely. Destro's boy Voltar and all their badass tanks, the Demons, D-E-M-O-N-S. I'll give you $20. You can tell me what that stands for. Anyone? Are in haystacks outside the castle. Let's get it on. Destro realizes Cobra Commander is actually the imposter, Fred the Seventh. Fred 7? What?
Fred 7.
We talked about Fred earlier.
We talked about Fred. This is Fred 7. After the destruction of the pit and where he was presumed dead for a while, he does come back. He is shot and presumably killed by Fred 7.
Oh, I see.
Fred then takes the battle armor and assumes the mantle of Cobra Commander.
I do love every time like a Fred dies, they're just like, well, looks like we need a Fred number 6. Like, ooh, that didn't last long. Time for Fred 7.
One would think that there's already a Fred number 8 out there.
Maybe.
In fact, there is a Fred number 8 out there.
I like to think that
Fred number 7 bites it.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, I like to think you don't become Fred until Fred 7 dies. Like, let's be polite.
You're activated as the next Fred, but they're already ready to go. I think they prepped them all at the same time, like basically prepped them all at the same time.
Gotcha.
And so, this is Fred number 7. Since the last time we saw Fred,
this would have been replacement dad Fred 2, who was fleeing from Bongo the balloon bear.
5 other Freds have died.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
4 other Freds have. Well, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 have died.
Fredding ain't easy, dude. What do you want me to tell you? You know?
Yeah. There is a much more slow burning subplot that boils up much later, even than this. I want to say it's like issue 95 or something. Where the real Cobra Commander comes back and it's like, what's up, suckers? And he comes back and reclaims the throne.
Larry Hama.
And so
wheels within wheels, man. He was not messing around.
Wheels within wheels.
Hama was pulling some
Fred
straight
7.
up Hickman shit back in G.I. Joe. We're just going to call him Fred for the rest of the time, because this is not our Cobra Commander. This is Fred 7. Fred 7 agrees to talk some business with Destro. Destro then announces a new era of understanding and cooperation between Cobra and Mars, much to the confusion of Dr. Mindbender, the Baroness, and G.I. Joe.
Because nobody knows he's Fred.
Right. Nobody knows he's Fred. But all of which should be very confused, because these dudes hate each other. Hate the hell out of each other.
But Destro's like, I know who you are, and you and I are going to make this work.
And I also think Destro thinks I can control this idiot. Like,
sure, yeah.
Not a problem. This is Fred number 7. Give me a break, you know?
He's not even good enough to be Fred number 6.
Right. The outcome of their alliance is going to be marked by increased profits, higher dividends, and increased benefits, much to the delight of the Crimson Guardsmen and the dismay of the Joe. I only assume that means more paid time off for the Crimson Guard.
There's a panel where the Crimson Guardsmen in unison fist pump into the air and yell, "Yay, more benefits."
I mean, look, if you're working for Cobra, I assume you're well paid because you know you're a bad guy.
You'd have to be.
There's no question. Like the application has to say, are you comfortable with being a bad guy? Check yes or no. And if you check yes.
There is a non-zero chance that you will be killed horribly.
Right. While doing evil things, mind you. So the Cobra application has a box, check here if you're willing to die, yes or no. If no, you're out. And a second box, check here if you're willing to be evil and die, yes or no. You're looking for a very specific candidate. Yeah. That's a special kind of person.
They're not
evil workers are not, though. Destro is a boss. And one thing he understands, evil workers are still workers and they deserve benefits, Joe Patrick. That's what we learned here.
Sure. I will agree that that's the lesson this comic is trying to teach us. Yes.
We also learned that Destro, not the worst boss. He takes care of his people. He understands you got to keep your people happy. That's part of the deal, right?
One of my favorite things about this issue is that when the Carney guy throws the can, where whoever is with Outback catches that can, he says they sure didn't pick up a 6-pack of these at the United Dairies. And there's an editor's note and it says sort of like a 7-Eleven without Slurpees.
There you go.
TM.
The United Dairies. So
there's some context for you American kids.
It's your Scottish 7-Eleven. Okay. The art in this, not good. It's just not good.
It's not.
It's not great. Good. Like we haven't seen, there's been other G.I. Joe issues we looked at that were like, whatever. It's fine. There's some straight up bad art here.
Shockwave was the other character's name.
Oh, Shockwave.
So Shockwave is like, he makes the joke about the United Dairies.
Gotcha.
I don't think the art is super good. No. It's not. This is probably my least favorite.
Yeah. I think we're also firmly out of that heyday you were talking about, like when G.I. Joe, the comic, was at its best, and getting into, we're just kind of printing G.I. Joe because we're
selling toys now. My whole purpose is to sell toys.
Yeah.
But this is the heyday of G.I. Joe as a toy line because I read this comic and I was picking out the toys that I had and the toys that I remember wanting. Like I had the Armored Cobra Commander, I had Voltar, I had
that stupid two-piece
weird
like
Destro tanks.
Cobra tank thing.
I didn't have that, but that was the maggot. Those were the demons.
Those were the maggots, I believe. The demons were Destros.
They're all weird named acronyms. Yeah. And that's really the best part about it is the nostalgia. Otherwise, this is kind of a dumb issue.
The shine was kind of off of G.I. Joe.
We're deep into the G.I. Joe run at this point. And not far removed from this, we're going to start getting shit like Tiger Force and Eagle Warriors and Ninja Force and all the like branded extreme crap that is the hallmark of the 90s.
Oh, yeah.
So this is probably, I'd say that this might be kind of near the last gasp of the traditional original iteration of G.I. Joe where...
Oh, definitely. From here, it would get pretty unrecognizable.
This is the last time for me that it really felt like G.I. Joe.
Agreed.
We will finish our deep dive into Destro with Destro number 1. From Image Comics / Skybound, written by Dan Waters, with art by Andre Bresson, colors by Adriano Lucas, letters by Russ Wooten. It's 40 pages for $4.99. Here is your solicit. Miniseries premiere. Thank you, Image.
Well done, Image. Thank you.
The next chapter of the Cobra threat begins here. James McCullen, Destro the 24th, is the man behind Mars Industries, the undisputed leader in providing high-tech weapons to world powers for the right price. But the emergence of Energon has changed everything. As Destro's ambitions grow, the Crimson Twins, Tomax and Zaymot Paoli, there's no way I said that right. Emerge to destroy their competition. And Cobra Commander realizes his current ally could be his future greatest enemy. Acclaimed writer Dan Waters and artist Andre Bresson changed the balance of power in the Energon universe forever. A revolution is brewing in the quote-unquote Republic of Darklonia. It doesn't really feel like much of a republic.
No, and when the place is named Darklonia, you don't want to live there.
Yeah, it's like it's like living in Evilville.
Right. Yeah.
Protesters are storming the fortress where the tyrannical prime minister is hiding. He sends his more enthusiastic soldiers to rough up, kill a few of the insurgents to quell the riot, only to have them met by a squadron of bats.
These bats are cool.
That's Battle Android Trooper, for those not in the know.
And they are cool looking. And I do like that they still kept the little window with the gears in their chest.
Sure, yeah.
It's awesome.
Of course. That's how you know that they're robots.
Right.
Now, if you've been following the rise of G.I. Joe in the Energon universe, you will remember that we first met the bats in the Duke miniseries.
Yep.
Where he has to fight off a bat and it almost kills him. Waters plays up the tension between Destro and his new ally, reminding us and Cobra Commander that Destro is nobody's subordinate. We learn a bit about Clan Destro and how they've been death merchants at the forefront of global conflict for hundreds of years, if not longer. And the clan leaders have always had that creepy silver mask fetish.
Of course. No reason to change anything here as far as like origin, because Destro's, it's just too good, you know?
I mean, it works as an origin. Yeah.
Right. And like you can update this character and drop him into what feels like very modern day conflict in like a small Russian satellite country. No problem. Like, he works great there.
I mean, and he's still Scottish. It's just that Darklonia is like he's where parts of his family hailed.
Sure. And
when we go back to Castle Destro, it's still very much in the Scottish Highlands.
And just like we talked about in the original origin, he probably stirred up this conflict just to throw the bats in there to do all of this, you know?
Yeah, 100%. I'm not going to get too deep into spoilers for the rest of the issue, except to say that we are introduced to everyone's favorite fake Central American country, Sierra Gordo.
Fat Mountain. Yeah.
And we meet Destro's rivals, my boys, the Crimson Twins. I am sorry to say that they don't finish each other's sentences or feel each other's pain, as far as we know.
Yeah, I put the book down when they introduced him. They weren't doing it. I was like, done here. Out. I am out. Leave it.
So Matt abstains from rating this issue.
This is a strong leave it.
The art by Andre Bresson is mostly good, but it is also very odd at times.
Yeah.
He draws the hell out of an action scene, but then his figures often have grotesquely distorted faces and limbs.
The same for
like if you go ahead.
Destro's mask as well. It's like, I don't know. He draws it so differently so many times that like sometimes it just looks like a silver face. Other times it looks like a mask. Other times he almost like the cover. He almost looks like he has no nose, like a skeleton, like the Red Skull or something. It's weird. He can't decide on a lot of things.
Yeah. There is more than one panel where your eye is drawn to a character's hands, and their hands and the placement of their fingers is like it looks like their fingers are disjointed.
Yeah.
It's like, ugh. Bresson and colorist Adriano Lucas do an impressive job with the backgrounds. They illustrate beautifully detailed settings of several vastly different locations, from the jungles of Sierra Gordo to the Scottish Highlands and Castle Destro, the interior. Destro #1 gives readers a grand reintroduction to everyone's favorite toy-friendly arms dealer. The issue does have some hiccups, but it's a strong showing overall and another worthy addition to the Energon universe. I'm giving it a buy it, even though the art did bug me a little.
I'm going to give it a buy it because the story is very good, and they do add some stuff to the Destro origin. It's a small moment, but it's cool. And the character, Waters has got a hold of him really well. He knows exactly how to write a character like this, exactly how this character should be acting. Everything he's doing here makes perfect sense. It's updated very much into the Energon universe. the bats, for example, like the one that Duke met, Duke was able to, kick its ass eventually. These bats are different because things have happened in the Energon universe, and Cobra has a hold of Energon now. So the game has changed. And Destro knows that. He's not afraid to strut it out there a little bit and show the world that the game has changed. I dug the story a lot. Agree, some problems with the art. I am going to give it a buy it, though. I think of the number one. The art
wasn't bad enough to make it a deal breaker. No. It was mostly good.
Yes. I think from the number ones we've read from G.I. Joe so far, this is probably at the bottom. This is probably my least favorite. But I think this miniseries is going to be good.
I think that is a fair ranking.
We congratulate you on the success of your mission.
Success? You dare speak to me of success? You psychotic, sibilant servant of a dolt!
That does it for our Cosmic Longbox deep dive into Destro. We learned a lot about the enigmatic Scottish arms dealer. We had a lot of fun with this character deep dive, and we learned that no Springfield is safe from Cobra's clutches.
And we also learned Grunt dates some badass bitches, man. Lola, tell you what, I'll take her on anytime I'm stuck in a hospital firefight. I hope Lola's by my side.
He's got a type. As Matt said at the beginning of the episode, we want to get into more character-focused episodes of the Cosmic Longbox. So let us know what other characters you'd like to hear us explore in future installments over at our Discord.
Joey, it's time to head to the THN Sanctum Sanctorum and talk about some new comics hitting your LCS next Wednesday, June 26th. Why don't you sew this Destro patch onto my sleeveless vest now that we got that out of the way, while I run through a preview of what the listeners can expect on the shelves? DC's summer event finally launches next week. At least the prequel drops in the pages of Absolute Power Ground Zero #1. So it doesn't finally launch. And Blood Hunt's already up to #4. So DC, you got some catching up to do. Okay.
I mean, it's not a race.
No, I mean, kind of is.
It's a marathon, not a sprint.
Fair enough. Titan Comics drops the first Doctor Who series for the new Doctor next week. Ninjak battles a popular TV brand in the pages of Ninjak versus Roku, #1 from Valiant. Resident Alien returns at Dark Horse with Book of Life #1. And I've got two big bouncing reasons why I know Joe will be picking up Cave Woman Killer Curves Supreme #1. These are just a few of the amazing titles dropping next week. Of course, we want to know what you are excited for. But only 2 books can become THN must-read picks. Joe Patrick, what is your pick for next week?
Well, I mean, I don't want to fuel this predilection you have for painting me as some kind of pervert.
But my pick for next week to yourself, sir.
My pick for next week does happen to be Zatanna, Bring Down the House #1. It is from DC Black Label, written by Mariko Tamaki, with art by Javier Rodriguez. It's 32 pages for $5.99. I don't know if they all come with a cardstock cover or if just some of the variants come with a cardstock cover.
I think they're doing that for Black Label stuff right now. But because this is from Black Label, we know we're going to see Zatanna's hog, right? Full frontal
hog, yeah, right. Full frontal, yeah. Here's your solicit. An all-new DC Black Label series from Eisner-winning writer Mariko Tamaki and artist Javier Rodriguez. And now, the moment you've all been waiting for, please put your hands together for Zatanna Zatara, the greatest entertainer in the crappiest hotel and casino of Las Vegas. Not that the ritzier spots on the strip haven't come calling, of course, but since a devastating instance of magic gone wrong that forever changed the course of her childhood, Zatanna would much rather live out her days as a top hat and fishnets wearing sleight of hand stage act than bother with real magic. These days, she doesn't think much of the past at all. That is, until an interdimensional vortex opens up during Zatanna's act and a terrifying demon crawls out to kill her. If she hopes to survive the horrors that follow it, she'll need to take herself and her power seriously for the first time in a long time, and fast. Because when it comes to your past, you can run, but you can't I'd forever. Woo, that's a good solicit.
Yeah, it really is.
I love Zatanna.
Said you wanted to see her naked forever.
Stop it. This is a no-brainer. It should be great. I'm glad that the character is getting the spotlight again after quite a bit of time away from that spotlight. It is blank label, but whatever. I'll take what I can get.
I mean, whatever.
And you know what? Maybe we'll see your hug, right, Matt?
I think Tamaki is a smart writer. She resists that urge here. I'm not worried about it. She was really good on Detective when she was working on the book. It was a weird time for Detective in that post-future state business. She did the best she could. It was pretty solid, though. But yeah, I think she'll do really well here with Zatanna. My pick for next week is Gotcha Man, #1 from Mad Cave. It's written by Cullen Bunn. Take a little break from the horror, I guess. With art by Chris Batista. It's 28 pages.
Chris Batista? I haven't heard that guy's name in forever.
For $4.99, here's your solicit. The triumphant return of Gotcha Man, the iconic Japanese animated franchise of a 5-member bird-themed superhero team known to Western audiences as Battle of the Planets, or as we knew it in Texas, G-Force, which is the other name. A mechanical terror has descended upon numerous cities, and the world's greatest scientists are disappearing. Our only hope, Science Ninja Team Gotcha Man, as they battle these machinations from the international terrorist organization known as Galactor. Their strength, willpower, and even vehicles are pushed to the absolute limit. If they fail, who's waiting in the wings to take their place? The first exciting issue in an ongoing series that expands upon the original anime series. One continuity, infinite possibilities. I think they're saying that one continuity thing because the Americanized version we got of Battle of the Planets was pretty different than the actual Japanese version. They just sort of chopped it up, watered it down, and made a kid show.
Sure, right.
And there's...
didn't they do the same with Robotech for the limited airings in America that they did?
Probably, yeah.
It was all goofy.
I think so. I think it was chopped up, and re-edited and dubbed, telling a slightly different story. Because they were trying to sell toys to kids, more or less. This was just like, we need programming. We can buy Japanese stuff cheap, dub it, and throw it out there, and kids will watch it. I loved it as a kid. Absolutely loved it. And when I found out that there was way more to this, and it was really, really good and deep, because Japanese kids are smarter than us and get shown better cartoons. It blew my mind, So I'm excited for this. I have a feeling Cullen Bunn,
so weird.
He grew up at that time where he probably loved it as a kid too. So I'm excited he gets to do this.
It's so weird because we didn't get that in Omaha. But I definitely remember seeing Voltron.
Sure. I think they just tested this stuff in different markets, probably they tested in larger markets first. And if it worked, they sold it to smaller markets after that. So,
yeah. The THN must-read trade for next week is the Usagi Yojimbo 40th Anniversary Reader. It is from Dark Horse. It's written and drawn by Stan Sakai. It's 144 pages for $14.99. Here's your solicit. A collection of fan-favorite short stories from the world of Usagi Yojimbo. A perfect introduction and celebration of the Rabbit Hero. Celebrating Usagi Yojimbo's 40th anniversary, this value-priced collection includes 8 fan-favorite and Stan Sakai-picked short stories in color, starring the beloved Rabbit Ronin. Perfect for longtime fans and newcomers to the series, the Usagi Yojimbo 40th Anniversary Reader Collection includes the popular short story Chanoyu?
Sure.
In color for the first time. It features Stan Sakai's award-winning art and storytelling and expert hand lettering with colors by Emi Fuji, Tom Luth, and Rhonda Pattison. This collects A Mother's Love, Blade of the Gods, The Way of the Samurai, Chanoyu, Cut the Plum, The Artist, Bantori, and Adachi. These are stories handpicked by Stan Sakai as examples to present to somebody interested in Usagi Yojimbo. If you've been wanting to read Usagi Yojimbo and you didn't know where to start, this is where you start.
Yeah, no more excuses. Pick this up. Blade of the Gods is an amazing story. Easily my favorite Usagi story. So I am happy to know that Not only do I think it's one of the best, Stan Sakai does too. That's awesome. I love that story. So check out our show notes for more info on these comics, and be sure to grab our must-read picks. If you want to read along with us, we're going to review them on the next New Comics show. That's coming up next week. So get on it, nerds. Okay?
Excelsior! Oh.
That is it for THN 746. Next time, like I mentioned, we're doing New Comics, and we're going to give you a sneak peek of our Patreon extra. In the meantime, if you need more, join us for the THN Gang Hang on Saturdays at 11 o'clock Central. Check out our Discord for details. Joe Patrick, what else can these nerds do while they're at our Discord?
You can feel all your feelings about the divisive third episode of Star Wars The Acolyte.
Those kids sucked. They were terrible.
The child acting was bad, and I won't deny it, but the episode itself is not as bad as everyone thinks.
I don't think the episode was bad. It just
The child acting is real bad. You can lament the delays plaguing Mahershala Ali's long-suffering Blade reboot.
This is not a delay. Nothing has started
I don't think it's ever
yet.
gonna happen.
Yeah, like it can't be delayed if it hasn't even begun. You know.
I mean, but it's been written. It was supposed to be shot already.
But it's been written. It's being rewritten even. So
look, I don't know, man. It sucks. It sucks because I really want it. You can pick your must-read books from Brian Domingos' September solicitations thread, or maybe even answer the question of the week. This week's question was inspired by a brief chat from last week's Gang Hang. Who is the worst good guy in comics?
I love it.
Now, slow down. We're talking about a character that's technically on the side of angels, but they are just completely awful, either due to their personality or through actual shady actions.
Yeah, not bad at your job per se, but
not incompetent like Nort or Booster Gold or whatever.
But you have made decisions that are villain level. Straight up villain level.
It was inspired specifically by Professor X and his many war crimes.
Yeah. And we're not just talking about the Krakoa stuff. I'm talking years, Professor
way
X
back.
being a jerk.
Years back. I'm just going to let this school full of teenagers think I'm dead for 50 years.
Right.
It's fine. It's fine.
Oh, I'm going to have weird sexual attractions and dreams to one of my students who's way too young.
My underage protege. Yeah, you bet. Please keep your question of the week suggestions coming and sign up for our Discord with the link at twoheadednerd.com/Discord. We will talk about your answers on this week's Gang Hang if you'd like, and if not, we'll talk about something else.
Sure.
If you don't dig on the Discord, send an MP3 submission for the Comic Pushers, for Ask a Nerd, or for anything like the question of the week to twoheadednerd@gmail.com. We'll put you on the show. Don't be scared. We won't put you on the show if you don't want to be on the show, but you can email us stuff is the point.
If you're new to the show and you're wondering why The Simpsons never made a joke about Cobra running that town, I am too. And I assure you, you'll have a good time if you listen to more. The good news is you can hear the entire run of THN in our digital longbox archive at twoheadednerd.com. THN is a listener-supported podcast. It would not be possible without the generosity of donors like our patron, Greg Chisholm, one of Destro's fellow Scotsmen. I don't know if they're related, but they all know Destro, right? They've all been to a party at Castle
Greg
Destro.
Chisholm, Destro the 37th.
And quite possibly. If you like what you hear every week, it's easy to support this show and our own arms dealership. You can sign up to be a patron at patreon.com/twoheadednerd.
Before we go, our weekly shout out goes to loyal listener and Transformers fanatic Jim Stafford, who revealed this week that he has a variant cover coming out for Skybound's Transformers number 10.
That's kick-ass.
Coming in July. It's a store-exclusive variant. It's exclusive to Carnivore Comics in Long Island, New York. Limited to 750 copies. But as you are hearing this, pre-orders are open. If there's still time to get one, now's your chance. Go to carnivorecomics.com. Tell them Two-Headed Nerd sent you. Congratulations.
You will not get a discount, but
you won't get a discount, and it won't mean anything to them.
And they'll say,
be like, who? Congratulations, Jim. Here's hoping that this is a sign of many future assignments to come.
I own a piece of original Transformers work that Jim did. It is totally awesome. He drew an Ultra Magnus
so
for
good.
me. It's my favorite Transformer. That guy is awesome. Hire him, hire him, hire him. Until next time, true believers, remember to pre-order your comics, or your prim and proper British retailer might just drive his Rover right through your front door. This is a two-headed nerd, signing off.